The European Commission has delayed plans to impose a tax on tech giants and will instead shift its focus to a global minimum tax agreed on by G20 countries over the weekend. It comes as U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen met with her European counterparts in Brussels. The White House had pressured the EU to withdraw its digital tax plan by threatening to impose import levies on the bloc. The Commission says it will reassess its digital tax proposal in October.
I think we will work together to reach this global agreement. In this framework, I informed Secretary Yellen of our decision to put on hold the proposal of the Commission of a digital levy to allow us to be concentrated, working hand in hand to achieve the last mile of this historical agreement.
And for more on this story, let's cross over now to Brussels, where our correspondent Maeve McMahon has been standing by for us. Now, Maeve, Brussels has agreed to delay its plan to the tax. Is this a case of EU giving up to US pressure?
Good evening, Annalise. Well, that's certainly not the official line that the European Commission has been taking here today. They argue that it's mostly related to the Venice deal that was struck by the OECD by 130 countries last Saturday. That said, a couple of months ago, we did see Ursula von der Leyen promising that there would be an EU digital tax levy and that would help beef up the post-COVID recovery fund. That said, economists I've been speaking to here in Brussels today are not alarmed, and they believe that the landscape has very much changed and the EU should put all its energy into making this deal work, the OECD deal work, and then focusing on their levy a little bit later. But we can get more now and bring in Oxfam tax expert, that's Chiara Butaturu. Chiara, lovely to speak to you there. Are you surprised by the news? I would imagine Oxfam is a little bit upset by this delay.
So we're not surprised, but we are upset, of course. We are not surprised because so what was agreed at the G20, but before at the G7, at the OECD inclusive framework, were two main reforms. One, the taxation on the most profitable companies according to where they have economic activities, in particular sales. The second, on minimum taxation. And in particular, the first reform as a condition that all countries have to renounce to digital service taxes or other kind of similar measure. And it would have been challenging for the Commission to propose a digital levy, so with this condition. At the same time, as I said, we are upset because we see a lot of limits in the G20 agreement, and the digital levy could have been a good way to compensate the limits of these reforms.
So is the EU digital levy dead now, do you think? I mean, is there even any need for one?
We think that if the agreement stays like it is at an international level, we think that there is a need for a digital levy, because the companies that are currently covered by the proposal of the OECD, in particular the taxation of the most profitable companies, it will cover just 78 companies because they have very limited conditions. Company with a turnover above 20 billion euros and also a profit margin above 10%. While a digital levy would have lower threshold and so higher number of companies and also of revenues for European countries. And just to make an example, in the UK, for example, there is a digital service tax, and TaxWatch calculated that if the UK has to renounce to a digital service tax to implement the OECD tax reform, Google, for example, would pay 1/3 less. So for all the countries that have a digital service tax, also developing countries, it would be a loss.